looking at the two bills and looking what we have on agenda, I would like to maybe right at this time to table these two bills and bring up communication 394 for the discussion of the ad hoc committee, because I think we need to have more input from all the different stakeholders, and to get the proper information for the council to make a decision, the council members to make a decision, because I feel like we're going to be like the judges of this, and whatever we decide and we vote on, we need to make sure that we have the most proper, the most best information so we can make the best decision, because we cannot go on hearsay. Okay, we need to have facts given to us and prove and shown to us that if it's good or bad or whatever. Because to me, there's a balance. There is some good and there is some bad. Okay, and so we need to weigh that. So right now, I'm gonna make a motion to table bills 109 and also Bill 113.
Do I hear? Okay. So it's been moved to table Bill 109 and 113 by Councilmember Onishi and seconded by Councilmember Yoshimoto. We're going to take a vote on that.
No, we have to
discuss. I'm sorry.
discussion on it.
Discussion on it first. I'm sorry. So, Councilmember Ford, you had your light on.
Well, I oppose tabling this bill. This is another stalling mechanism. I have said before, there is no middle ground. You're either going to be GMO, allowing a GMO, or you're going to be organic and not allow GMO. They cannot coexist. And to pretend that we're going to go into a ad hoc committee or anything else you want to say, and you're going to get scientists on both sides to come in and say what they believe to be true, we're never going to get anywhere. That's the reason I refuse to be part of an ad hoc committee. We're not going to get there. So all it is a means to stall this bill and stall this process of protecting the people and the land and the water of this island. I will not support tabling this bill, and I'm embarrassed that council members who are elected to make the laws, protect the people, are trying to stall something that will protect. Right now, I had a conversation this morning with Gary Hoosier in Kauai. What is going on in Kauai is 100 families are suing because of the pesticide-resistant plants that are being sprayed. Their kids are getting sick, and of course, this is going on. This is only to stall the implementation of protecting the people and the land of this island. No.
Thank you.
I have my light on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did. She did.
Okay. Councilmember Willie.
I'm sure that Councilmember Onishi is doing this with the best intent, but I think that really time is of the essence. If we don't do this and have something in place before, basically leave it to the state and leave it to others, it will not happen. As Walter Ritty said, we just turned around and one day we woke up and it was all over it was everywhere. As even between the time that, to my knowledge, and I may have the timing wrong, but once I introduced this bill, there was an offer made on the one non-GMO dairy by the owner of the GMO dairy. Now that's secondhand information, but things happen very fast when you're very powerful. I also think that in terms of point of order, I think this is out of order. Our rules, Rule 14, 2A, says lay on the table to table something. This motion is to interrupt the pending business temporarily when something else of immediate urgency has arisen and is out of order. Okay? There's no immediate urgency. This is just a maneuver to do X versus Y. This is not where there's something come up, oh my gosh, we got to deal with this first. This is not.
Yeah,
And appropriate.
I'm allowing that motion because we'll get a chance to vote on it, so thank you, but Councilmember Yoshimoto?
No, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to support the motion to table because I do want to discuss the formation of the ad hoc committee because, for myself in listening to the testimony, there's a lot to absorb, and I think the ad hoc committee would be something that would be helpful to us. I'm not a scientist. I'm not an expert in any of these areas. I've listened to the testimony, and, there are good points on both sides. And what I want to do is make sure that we come up with the best decision possible. In the past, I've been a part of legislation that I didn't agree with, and sometimes to go back to the drawing board, and, well, in other words, to pass it now and amend it later, has been very, very difficult. And so I think, it's our responsibility to pass legislation that we feel comfortable with. I can't speak for the other council members, but for myself, I'm not going to make a decision until I know everything that I need to know. I mean, that's my responsibility as an elected official. And so for me to have that information, that comfort level to make a decision that I feel confident in, I need to get more information. And to do that, I think an ad hoc committee would be worth discussing because it's not a stalling tactic. For me, what it is to do the right thing the first time around. Because for those of us that have followed the council members, I mean, that's always been my philosophy, to get it right the first time. And so, to me, I think convening that can only help because information can only help because philosophically, I think the public knows how I feel about GMOs. I mean, yeah, and getting more into the specifics would really help me. I don't know about the other council. Maybe other council members have their minds made up, and that's fine, right? But I haven't. I see there's clear lines between genetically engineered products that are poison resistant as opposed to products that are virus resistant. I see a clear line there. I mean, that's what I see. So I want to talk to more scientists, more people, more ag people, everybody, right? Because that only helps us. Because when I look at the papaya and I say, well, are they treating this with poison? No. I mean, it's genetically engineered to resist a virus. When I look at soybeans that are Roundup resistant, well, that's to me a clear difference. In one point, you're consuming poison. Okay, I got it. Clear. Another point, this is virus resistant. So I see a line there, right? So I want to make sure that I talk to the farmers, I talk to the scientists, and we know what we're doing. Because rather than putting a blanket on everything, maybe we can just say, let's choose poison-resistant crops. We don't want any poisons on our island. And to me, that's the line. I'm straying a little bit. I'm sorry, but that's the point. I need information, and that's why I would support that.
Okay, so I'm going to, the motion to lay on the table is not a debatable motion. So I'm in error there, so thank you to our legislative branch for bringing that to my attention. So because it's not debatable, there's a motion, and we're going to call for the vote. So, Mr. Clerk?
Ms. Zioff?
No.
Mr. Iligan?
Aye.
Mr. Kanuha?
Analua.
Mr. Kern?
Analua.
Mr. Onishi?
Aye.
Ms. Willie?
No.
Ms. Ford?
No.
Chair Shimono?
Aye.
Mr. Kanuha?
No.
Mr. Kern?
Aye.
Chair Poindexter?
No.
Chair Poindexter, you have 3 ayes.
Okay, we're back to our discussion. Who was?
Can I go next then?
Yes.
Okay.
Councilman Member Yoshimoto.
Okay, so we're back to the 2 bills. And, as I was mentioning, I see there's a clear line in terms of the science behind genetically engineered products. I think that, I know papayas should be exempted, which Margaret Willie's bill does do that, so I appreciate that. I also think that, we shouldn't have, again, poison-resistant crops grown here. I don't think there should be anything related to Roundup-resistant crops here too. Now, taking into consideration, that we have, I guess, there's one farmer that has corn crops in Hamakua. So that's an issue. I think, Ms. Willie, what does your bill do as far as the corn crops?
Okay, so
Short answer.
Yeah, okay. Yes, it would be, it grandfathers that crop and any others who are currently growing.
So-
It holds it in place.
So, I don't think my 5 minutes are up. Anyway, so then, the current existing farmer that utilizes those corn crops can continue to do so
At that location.
at that location, but cannot expand or whatever. It's just, he's locked in, grandfathered in.
Yeah, and then
Okay.
we have the ad hoc committee. I mean, that's the idea, hold in place while we do the ad hoc committee.
Okay. And then, so your idea is if your legislation should pass, the ad hoc, you would then support the ad hoc
I
committee,
very
but
much
not,
support
but not
that.
beforehand? Okay.
Yes.
And you're saying that the horticulturists, they're okay because they don't, they have greenhouses, right? So then they're fine.
Yeah, and I also made it so there's a technical meaning for greenhouse. It's basically enclosed. They're not doing it out open air at all right now. So again, it's hold in place while we proceed with the discussions on the points, say, that you've raised.
Okay, so what about the situation then where, we have crops that are similar to papaya that need the help or protection of some virus protection? And we heard of tomatoes, we heard about lettuce, things like that. So they're not being poison resistant, but they're just trying to be virus resistant. Now, what happens to those?
Okay, and I'm not quite sure those terminologies that you're using, but I'm going to answer your general question, okay? I think that's, again, the type of question we need to address in the ad hoc. I mean, basically, you're saying there are different ways of addressing a problem. And
So
I can finish my
just,
sentence? Just, he
Okay,
asked
finish
me
your
the question.
sentence. Okay.
And this is, one would be using GMOs, and there are liabilities with that or not. Basically, you had the papaya industry, it's the 30%. You end up with 30% value, 30% owners, and harm everybody else. So again, I reckon you have a good point, and again, that's the kind of thing we would do once we're
Yeah.
holding in place.
I don't want this to lead into the reason he made the, Councilmember Onishi made the table to go to discuss the ad hoc.
Oh, yeah, I'm not talking about that.
Yeah, so it's moving in that direction, so I want to make sure that we don't, it's not to discuss the ad hoc and the,
You tell.
but Councilmember, are you still have the floor?
No, I'm not done yet.
Okay, go ahead.
As long as my
Go
time
ahead.
has stopped,
Go
okay. Okay, well, anyway, so, philosophically, that's how I feel. But I do, again, want to get it right the first time. That's something I need to kind of think about because, again, to me, there is a distinction, and that's why I want to be comfortable with that. I mean, I've heard the testimony, so I just want confirmation, and that's just, my nature to make sure, or at least as sure as I can be. And so I'm not quite there yet, but at least I want the public to know, that's my philosophical view. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Kern?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I feel very similar to what Mr. Yoshimoto is saying, and I needed to clarify. I voted yes on the table. I wish there was some discussion on that. I thought it would make sense to talk about how an ad hoc committee would look.
Why? No, I disagree. You
Why?
can say that.
Okay.
That's all I'm going to say on that.
Yeah.
He can.
This is all part of the discussion. The challenge that we have is we have so much information coming in and so many conflicting views, and we have the Monsanto monster, which I vehemently oppose. I do not want to see them here on our island. Then we have the smaller farmers. Then we have the difference between the GMO, conventional farming, and organic. And it seems to be this polarity between GMO and organic. And the reality is majority of the farming is in between. It's conventional. Just spray pesticides, spray herbicides, use chemical-based fertilizer. And I want us to be able to make this decision, because I've been thinking about this and thinking about it. I'm not a GMO guy. I'm not into it. But I also want to make the best possible decision we could make. It's going to have a huge impact on our island. And I don't feel that any of us are experts in this. And if we had a working group or something like that, I would like to see some type of conclusions of law, findings of facts. Here's what it is, here's both sides of it, not the Monsanto side of it, just what this is, what that is. And like Mr. Yoshimoto said, what the difference between virus resistant and pesticide resistant. Some things are modified 18 different times. That doesn't seem right to me. But if you have something that's going to no longer exist, do you want to still have that tool available? Or do you lose that industry? And that's a question that, that we're basically having to ask. And I would just like us to be able to make the best possible decision. It's challenging to say pass it and then go into an ad hoc committee. I would like to understand more, too, of how does the pollen from an orchid affect something else? I don't know these things. We have opposing views of this. Because maybe they don't. And that's a huge industry for us. We're not talking about growing food here, we're talking about flowers. Are those really conflicting over? I don't know. I mean, I know that the bees fly around. I do not know if if an orchid will cross-pollinate a tomato. I would just like to be able to find out what this is, straight up, factual based. This will do this, this will do that, and then we can actually make the best decision possible. Otherwise, it's going to be really, really challenging. Yeah. So I'm curious to see what everybody else has to say, but I do want to make a decision on this. I don't want to postpone it and put it off for a long time. I just want facts, true facts, without the fear, without anything else, facts, and we can make the best decision when we have facts. I'll yield.
Councilmember Elegant.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's been a very tough decision. I want to bring forth Mr. Gonzalez, if I can. Can you please?
Point of order, can I ask a question of the chair? I think that we have limited time today, and I think that when it's an option whether you count when someone brings someone forward, whether it counts as part of their time. And I would ask that whenever, if anyone, regardless of who, bring them forward, that we consider that as part of their time allotment.
I'm going to allow that because sometimes it can get long-winded.
Point of order.
So,
Point of order.
well, let me just finish. The reason why I want to allow it is yesterday we cut our people to 2 minutes on all the items. I think this is just fair way to do it. If our council people have 5 minutes,
Point of order.
that should include, okay, go ahead.
Point of order. I don't think that's correct, because what we're doing now, we're making a decision. So we need to make sure that whoever we call up can give the proper information. So we cannot have them cut off, because like you mentioned to one testifier, that when they quoted you, they only mentioned certain thing. They didn't mention the whole thing, right? And you went and you point of order on that part.
Right.
So to me, as council members right now, because we're making a major decision right now, and you can cut off information that council members are going to need to make a decision, that's wrong.
Okay. With that being said, 5 minutes included with the testimony, or if whoever you're calling up will include the 5 minutes. That's just how it's going to be.
Point of order.
Okay.
I also want to say that for responsible legislation, it really requires an informed public, diverse perspectives, and active participation. And we need to make responsible legislation here. We can't just nitpick information. We need to hear it all out.
Yeah, you'll have another turn if you need to. It's just it just pushes us to make sure that we're real clear on what we're going to ask, and the person answering the question is real clear on how they're answering, so that it doesn't go on, because we can have that go on for 30 minutes. And if he goes on for 30 minutes, then I've allowed that. Then what happens next to the next person who'll be asking? I'm setting precedents. If Ms. Ford is going to call up one of the other testifiers to come up, and that it'll never end.
Yeah.
So I'm saying 5 minutes, and
I'm calling.
Okay. So we'll start the clock from now. You can call and.
calling him because of his expertise. because of his background, because of his expertise. This is an expert opinion.
But we can, what I'm saying is if I allow yours to go on more than 5 minutes, I have to allow everybody else to go on
So,
for
point of
longer
order.
with expertise. Okay,
So what you're saying is that, okay, so each council member going to be allowed only 5 minutes for discussion, right?
The first round.
No, no.
First round.
No, all rounds. It has to be all rounds because you're going to keep it consistent,
Right,
right? So every
right.
round, each council member has only 5
Right,
minutes. Okay, so
right.
let's keep that
Okay.
complete. Okay, understand.
Exactly,
Okay, now.
understandable.
So if council members wants to call up that same person up because he didn't get to finish, then that can be that
That's
part
your
of the
choice.
council.
That's your choice.
Okay.
That's your
But the
choice.
main thing is, we keep everybody at 5 minutes.
And we've
okay?
been pretty good
Okay,
at that
Alex?
so
Okay.
far. Okay, Councilmember Eoff?
Yes, real quick. I guess I can go along with that, but I really feel like this committee is where we can do a lot of fact-finding. And I'm not opposed to an ad hoc committee, but I also believe we should be discussing this here. And there's experts here today. Maybe if this stays in committee or whatever, wherever it goes, there'll be experts at the next meeting too that we may want to call. So I think that's a way we can get our questions answered, and so I would hope that we utilize that. I was watching the committee on Kauai that's discussing their bill, and that's how they're moving it, is they're taking in information from experts to help them. So I really believe that's what we're supposed to be doing in committee. And it may even, it may prolong things, but I think that's okay. That's why we're here.
Councilmember Willie?
Yeah, and I agree with Ms. Eoff. I think that we ought to be able to continue this however many rounds, and you can call someone back or whoever. It's just, otherwise, if we're not counting that time, we just sort of lose the opportunity. Each of us can be calling people indefinitely. So I agree with the chair whose decision this is.
Yeah. So everybody will have a chance with their 5 minutes, and we'll stick with the 5 minutes, and we'll have a second chance, or other people can call up the same person if they want. So, Councilmember Yoshimoto.
So just a quick question, so we all understand what the ground rules are. So there's no limit to the number of times that we're going to speak today, because I think our rules say
2
that.
rounds.
No, we can continue. Three, right?
rounds.
So
3 rounds, but we can go more.
So is your intention to allow us to go until we're satisfied, or are you going to put a number on that? Because that kind of plays into the whole picture, right? Because if you only have 3 times, then, that,
15 minutes.
right, versus just going, because if you go until we say, okay, we're done with questioning, I think that's good, because then the issue is so important. You don't want to leave any questions unanswered. So if that's your position,
Yeah.
then I'm good with that.
If we get to 3 rounds and we see that we need more, because remember, today we got here because we had 4 hours, because people are leaving after 12. So we have 4 hours, and we keep going through this. To me, we're wasting a lot of times doing this. Let's just start talking. We lost how many minutes already?
It's like point of order.
Let's start the 5 minutes.
Point of order. That's why, too, we should have done it the night before and continue.
Okay, I'm not going to go through that. 5 minutes.
Point of order. We can also overturn a ruling by the chair
Fine.
by a majority vote of
Fine.
the council.
Fine.
So I'm gonna
You want to make a...
appeal your call
Okay.
and vote.
2/3.
What is, I'm going to take a recess. I need to speak to our council just for 2 minutes.
Just so we don't lose time. But I think we go.